Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the Unbound team for hosting us. We have now a great discussion with Mariano Deber from Telefonica, which his title is really describes maybe 1% of what he does, and Kate Ward, SVP and Head of International at Refinery 29, which I also have to say, the title is only describing a little bit of what she's doing. So maybe we'll start with a quick introduction to yourself and to the companies you work for.
So thank you so much. Hi, how are you? I am the Chief Commercial and Digital Officer of Telefonica. Telefonica, for who doesn't know, it's a large telecommunications company, 350 million clients in 21 countries. Here we have the fantastic company called O2. It's part of the Telefonica group, and I oversee all the commercial activities of Telefonica in the world for B2C, B2B, and all the innovation areas of Telefonica.
Fab, and my name's Kate Ward. I'm the Head of International for Refinery 29. Refinery 29 is a media business for young women. We're reaching an audience of over 500 million women across all of our channels.
500 million.
500 million.
That's a lot of women.
A lot of women across all of our channels globally. We create content for them that embodies style and substance. And at the heart of our business is a real mission to progress, inspire, represent, and entertain young women. We do everything from video content to our own editorial, to events, to working with influencers, and really trying to build a modern media company for the most powerful generation of women that we think there's ever been.
And your role in that?
My role is that I head up the business outside the US. So I was in the very fortunate position to take a brand and that had enormous audience that had been built over many years. We're HQ'd in New York, and we were one of the leading media companies in the US, and to bring that to international markets. So we've opened an office in London, just down the road actually, about 18 months ago. We've opened an office in Berlin, where we now have about 20 people as well. So now we're creating content from cities outside of the US, translating content, building audience, and building communities internationally.
So in other words, your job is to go between London and Berlin and New York and all these cool
My
places?
job is to live in Terminal 5, never to see my husband, and to obsess about what this generation are thinking about. But yes, often on a plane.
Yeah, well, I still heard about worst cities to be located in, but it's
100%.
great. And I think Refinery 21 is a great example for a modern media company. So maybe we'll stay with you, Kate, for a second. So let's say when I was growing up, if there was any publication or content dedicated for women, it was in a magazine or that forum you would go, or maybe one TV show, but they had a destination. I need to go actively somewhere. Today, you're meeting your audience in a different way. They don't come to you, you go to where they are. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect and build communities. We're trying to impact our audience and create compelling experiences for them wherever they are. So we have a whole wide range of ways of doing that. Obviously, we have our own website, which is, enormously powerful and still incredibly popular in the heart of our business. But we also have incredible reach off our own site on our various social channels. So we're a partner with Snapchat, one of the original Snapchat Discover partners. We're also creating content, multiple channels on Instagram and Facebook. We're on Pinterest. We program amazing live experiences and events. We also work with other partners to syndicate our content, whether that's video content to TV channels and telcos, or whether that's thinking about distributing our editorial content to partners like Yahoo. So we're really about building kind of those content experiences, reaching and impacting our audiences. I think if you compare that to a kind of a world in which you were maybe getting your content in one place, I think that that's still sometimes the case for people, right? Sometimes they may say, I love Refinery, I follow you guys on Instagram. And Instagram might be the main way in which they connect with us. But what happens is that when they go into that Instagram feed, they then open the door and they peel back the layers of content, and they might be directed to our Pinterest, or our Facebook, or our YouTube, or our site. They may subscribe to our email. So whilst one platform may be the route in, it's not necessarily the end of the story, which I think it probably was a bit more limited when you were dealing with one distribution form or another.
Yeah, of course. I mean, today I think the technology, and this is a great transition also to ask Mariano, the technology and the platforms, everything allows us to build something on top of somebody else. So I can be exposed to a Refinery 29 content. I mean, of course, everything through the Telefonica or O2 cell phone. And then all the platforms and all the layers are open. So on the content level, what the users see, there's a lot of opportunity to get content that people are interested in right into their cell phone. But behind that, there is a lot of complexity and layers to make it optimized and to know what to serve to who. And I know you're putting a lot of thoughts on doing that. Maybe you can share a little bit.
Yeah, we think ourselves as a platform company. First, we have the. Let me do this a little bit interactive to see if the audience is not falling asleep.
Please.
Now when we are looking at, and we were talking on the backstage on new generations, think about your average teenager, son, brother, sister, friend, and let's say that the mother tells this teenager to walk the dog with the little brother. Who thinks here that there are more chances that this teenager is going to forget the little brother or sister than forgetting his phone, his cell phone, to walk? Who thinks there's more chances that he's gonna forget his little brother or sister than the cell phone? Like half. Like I would say like half of the people are thinking that. Yeah. This is the generation the new generation, the centennials, the Generation Z. And this is the generation that is going to make the telcos cool again, because this is we have a product that literally it's part of your body, and you take it out, and it's so amazing in terms of I was telling before also, when we see how people connect with media. Teenagers, even if we talk about different medias and we try to make content available. We have almost 10 million TV subscribers all over the world, and we make everything available in multiple devices. You can have teenagers or Generation Z people with their tablets next to them, but they will keep watching their content on their cell phone. Now, how can when I said, how can we make this, how are we going to be cool again, and telcos are going to be the center, is because we think that the key to make for the future is to think ourselves as platforms. We are working on something called the fourth platform. And to explain the fourth platform, I need to explain the first three. Think about the telco, and the first platform to be the fiber in the street, the cables, the radios, and everything that creates a lot of data. On top of that platform is the second platform that has the IT, the systems that make all these calls, the billing systems, all that creates a lot of data. The third platform are the products and services, the TV, broadband, the different products that people consume. We create a lot of data. The customer creates a lot of data. So the question is, how can we make this available? How can we take value of that? And how can the customer takes value of that? And we created this concept called the fourth platform, which is a cognitive intelligence engine, basically, where we get all this information, petabytes of information from our customers, and we help customers to make sense out of all the data that they have. This being, in the case of media, for example, the cognitive platform, knowing that you are a young woman and you like Refinery 29 products, to propose you about what's the next cool content that you're going to have, or being your insurance company, to try to get to ask you to give your own data of how do you travel with your car every day to give you a better deal if you're a good driver. Of course, there's a lot of privacy issues, data privacy issues, and we really believe this data belongs to the customer.
Yeah.
So it's very complex how to create this Ford platform, but the Ford platform needs to be very open. So that's the cool thing, is that everybody here who has a startup or is thinking about the product can think how to get in touch with the hundreds of millions of Telefónica customers, being media companies, being social media, or any type of services. We want to open our platform for you to create value with our customers.
Yeah, and that relates back to what we said about the area of open systems and integration. So today, the content can be discovered on one way or the other, and you aggregate the data. For certain types of services you will offer as a telco. I know, Kate, you guys also put a lot of thoughts about how to use the data to improve your service and the experience you're providing to your audience. Maybe you can elaborate a little on that.
Sure. I mean, I think the data is one is a kind of central part of our business. We like to think of it, Refinery, as the mixture of heart and science of coming together to create compelling content experiences. For example, we have over 10 years of historical publishing data. We know that our audience like to read horoscopes on a Sunday night. We know that certain types of content perform incredibly well on email. Maybe not the same type of stories that you're going to open on your Facebook page, because maybe it's not the kind of story that you want other people to know that you read. Maybe there will be content that performs better with certain age demographics. We can use very, very minute tests to make big impact. I'll give you an example. We know that 60% of our audience say that they look to influencers for inspiration. Mm-hmm. So we tested, what does that mean in terms of beauty content, for example? Beauty content traditionally always written in the third person to create authority when you're reviewing products, etc. We rewrote some beauty content in the first person, as if Refinery was the influencer. We saw a massive uplift. Yeah. Test that, take that to the news content. What does that mean? So we're always looking to draw out performance and optimization. On top of that, there's a kind of technology layer, right? Where we're A/B and image and headline testing every single piece of content that we create. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly building on that learning. That data set, I think, is one set. I think the next level up is insights. And how do you draw meaningful consumer insights from the data? So at Refinery, we have our own panel of women that we talk to, and we talk to them every day about everything from what they think of the content to what they think about the world in which they live, which are they doing, forgetting their little brother or their mobile phone. And so we really have a very rich and holistic understanding of what they think, what they want, what they like, their desires. That insight plus the performance data is what combines to kind of give us such a kind of deep understanding of our audience. And I think one of the key reasons, along with our mission, that's been key to our success.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, if we look at data today, everything which is delivered to us anywhere, whether it's the proposition from the telco, the right piece of content, the formats and so on, everything can be measured. So maybe just an advice to the entrepreneurs in the audience. Are there any entrepreneurs in the audience? Raise your hand. Okay, so there are a few. So the one advice I think we will all sign on for you is measure everything you can, and everything you thought you cannot measure, then just stop and find what's the other way to measure. I'll just give you an example from my personal experience. I'm an investor, a lucky investor in a company called Playbuzz, which has a lot of, it's providing a platform for interactive content for some publishers. And it used to be, in the beginning, anonymous, but it grew quickly virally. So in the beginning, if you measure everything well, you know on successful items who are the people who are reading them. And then at some point, if some others come to our environment and read, we can offer the viral stuff in the related articles. Every article you read related ones if you're bored. So if we know that people and the demographics of Kate enjoy this and use it, then we will try to offer to them that content. But let's see, after every item as viral as it would be has the climb and then starts to decline, then we can go and target these users. But if we have the data, at the end of the day, we will not just necessarily go to the users who read it, but we will try to target the viral readers who read it and share a lot. Because for the same price, I get a passive reader on Facebook, for example, I can get somebody who will be viral. If it's my own users and I see from the data that this somebody has a likelihood to share this and that type of content, I will also offer it to them as well. Now, so this is how everything will be connected. We will know everything, but they still are consumers, and we work in a business world that we need at some point to translate it to business. I'm very curious to hear how you imagine taking that data and leveraging into more a business model.
That's one of the most revolutionary concepts of what I was calling the fourth platform. When you're not paying when you're enjoying a product and you're not paying for it, it's because you are the product. You're not the customer for that company. That company is selling your data and monetizing your data, being in advertising, being on anything else. And that's fine. It's a good model as long as people like to share their data and get cool offers and cool content, and that's very fine. The issue now is, and that we believe that it's not very transparent today to what extent you're sharing your data with and how much data you're sharing. And imagine a world where we can tell you exactly what data are you sharing to whom, and what data we are creating about yourself. And that doesn't belong to Telefónica or to O2 or to any telco. It belongs to you. So the idea is like, how is going to be the world, and how are going to be the business models when every customer can have his data timeline and understand what's the data that they have created this today and with whom you want to share your data. And that's something interesting in terms of how the business models, we are not trying to make money out of this. Mm-hmm. We're trying to give more transparency and giving people ownership of who they...
But that's your future. You will have to make money out of that if you want the telco to be the center. I mean, that will be translated into the services, maybe not tomorrow, but in 5 years, 10 years.
Well, people ask us what's the business model of the fourth platform, and we don't have it figured out. Uh-huh. We don't know how we are going to make money. For sure, I think that if customers perceive us as a transparent company that tell you what are the data that we have of you, and if you want to port your data, this is not something that doesn't belong to Telefónica or to O2. If tomorrow you move to another telco, we'll give you the opportunity to take all the data that you have created and port it to another company. Or if you want to delete it, as long as it's legal, you can delete it. You decide. So at least we think that customers are gonna reward us for the transparency and be more loyal customers. And there are gonna be some business models where we are gonna help other companies to make sense of that data, and we are going to use it for ourselves, of course. When we want to make the life easier. So, for example, if we know that you are a O2 customer that here in the UK that travel to Tel Aviv every week, and we have a rate plan, a great plan that it's going to lower it's going to be exactly what you need in terms of the tariffs that you're looking for, then we will offer it to you. People are going to ask, okay, well, that marketing campaigns are done every day, and they offer you new plans. Yes, but it's done on a campaign basis, not on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah, of course.
And the beauty of having all this cognitive engine and have big data lakes is to have a one-on-one relationship with the customer and trying to make their lives easier and better.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the iPhone legacy of Steve Jobs, that you can be one of a billion people who have something, but you feel still very special and personalized. And Kate, kind of the same question, more but with a different angle, more about the commercial side. We're talking about the connected consumer. So obviously, most of the content proposition are the business models are all sorts of advertising or branded content. Yet you guys have your own flavor of content, like you said, that you're the heart and the science. So the heart part, how can you get the heart part into, or the Refinery 29 spirit into the monetized experience?
So I think, what we think of as when people ask me what's our kind of business, commercial business, I think the easiest way to sum it up is that we connect brands with our audience of young women. And we do that in partnership. I think the first thing is about that you mentioned transparency. I think it's a really great point. We're creating branded content programs for partners that are then shared through the Refinery ecosystem on Refinery channels. That content is created by us and very much to the values and style of Refinery. That's why the brands come to us, because they want to be part of that ecosystem. They want to be part of that content story, and they want it to be enjoyed as entertaining pieces of content on Refinery.
So it will not be the same video ad that I saw anywhere else from the same brand. It will not be the commercial.
We will have made it. We make custom content for brands where we're infusing the Refinery 29 voice with the brand message for them, layering in strategy and insights to make it as compelling as possible. But to your point about transparency, we really clearly mark that as branded content. Yeah. It will have clear markings on the site and the same on social. Why do we do that, apart from all of the legal reasons? I think one of the interesting things is that we hear a lot that young people don't like advertising. Mm-hmm. Ad blockers and turning on cord cutting, and they hate adverts and they hate brands. It's not true. Oh. Some of our most popular content is the content that we do in partnership with brands, whether that's on site or whether that's in real life. I'll give you an example. We can do a project this year. We did an incredible project in the US called the 67% Project, building from an insight that 67% of women in the US are above a size 14. Mm-hmm. Yet they're only represented in 2% of media. Yeah. That's a huge underrepresentation of plus-size women who are just simply not seeing themselves in media today and who are rightly feeling completely disenfranchised. We partnered with Lane Bryant and Aerie to create a whole campaign of programming around that concept of See the 67. Mm-hmm. Videos, articles, socials, Facebook Lives. We partnered with Getty. We shot stock imagery that we then released so that people could find positive, impactful and inspiring images of plus-size women, so that no longer you could say the stock imagery isn't there. This was a program that had purpose and heart, that generated over 500 million earned press impressions, and yet it was with a brand partner. Now, for our audience, what that campaign delivered was impact, purpose, value, and community. The fact that it was with a brand, fantastic. Thank you to that brand for getting behind this and leading the conversation and taking a stance. So I think you have to think about the value that you bring and making sure that branded content sings. And when it does, and that's what we do incredibly well, our audience absolutely love it. I think it has to be transparent. I think it has to be clearly marked so that they're engaging in that choice.
But let me ask you a trick question, because I see when you're talking about these campaigns, your eyes shine.
Yeah.
We can see it's a good cause and you support it. Was probably a very easy campaign to do because your editorial and creative people were passionate about it. But what if it will be, do you think that can be applied even if there will be a brand coming knocking on your door? Somebody would say, we want to be present on Refinery 29, but it's a brand that you hate everything.
Then we wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it?
No. Uh-huh. Because we have built a brand, we're a company that's all about purpose and all about mission. We want to inspire, progress, and represent young women. We have an extensive style guide and a really, really clear sense of our purpose and how we show up in the world. So no, we don't work with every brand that comes to us. 2 in 3 of our audience say they trust the brands that are featured on Refinery. That trust is absolutely vital. It's not just vital for the partners that partner with us, because they know that when you come into our ecosystem, that authority is established and that it's a great context for them. But it's more important for us as a brand that we have the integrity and the purpose with our audience, and that we're protecting our mission. So no, we don't work with everyone. Yes, my eyes light up when I think about those big campaign moments, but I can tell you that some of the most impactful and successful content is a 30-second short-form tutorial video for beauty that gets viewed again and again and gets used.
Yeah.
For us, it's about impact and really giving people, we like to think of giving them tools, not rules.
Yeah.
You know, what are those tools? What's that discovery moment? How can we be part of that? And yeah, that's where I think we've built a great base to do that from, and our audience respond to it incredibly positively.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, today's audience are very hard to fool, and they can very easily go somewhere else, and they have very strong bullshit detectors.
I was going to say their bullshit radars are very highly tuned, right?
Exactly. So maybe now last question before we need to wrap up, because we were talking about what's happening now in the media world, and you mentioned, Mariano, even the younger generation. So I think about my kids, everything we talked about for them, my own kids, everything we talked about is just options of things you can do when you're not playing Clash Royale, right? It's which is, by the way, another great example of how one company can utilize data in so many effective ways. So what we've seen now is still nothing compared to what's coming next from younger generations who are more than digitally native. It's really like a part of their body and a hemisphere of their brain, the phone. And they have a stimulus threshold that we will never be able to understand. How can we even start imagining what we will offer to them?
Very hard. I would predict that in 10 years, there's not going to be smartphones. I don't know, because if you think about it, it's kind of unnatural now, like to have a smartphone in your hand with all the things that all our digital life, we are used to have our digital life and our physical life separate.
Yeah.
The new generations have their physical and their digital lives together. So one of the things that probably is going to happen, I don't know if it's going to be in 10 years or in 20 years, but there's going to be a new device, something different where we can relate to reality, and that mixes, there's a lot of talk about augmented reality and virtual reality. Probably in 10, 20 years, it's going to, something very different is going to happen in terms of how do we relate to this piece of technology. Who's going to invent that? I don't know.
If you do know, tell me. I would like to.
Maybe somebody here is thinking about that. What I know is that the only way to be part of that revolution is to be open. One of the main paradigms that a telco had to go through, and we went through, is that we were very good at doing everything by ourselves.
Yep.
And the culture was, we are very, very large, we have all the services, and we don't want to partner with anybody. We want to partner with everybody today, with everybody. The solution is not going to come from the Telefonica, all the solutions are not going to come from the Telefonica group. I understand it's different because we have a broader, practically everybody who has a cell phone is a client, so the branding experience is different, and as long as it's legal and ethical, we would like to partner with everybody at Telefonica, but it's a constant effort. And let me give you some examples of how we're making that happen. First, we have the most amazing open innovation program in the world. It's called Telefonica Open Future. We have WIRA here. We have an accelerator in the UK, more than 150 companies accelerated, 350 million pounds in outside investment to these companies. You can visit us on Air Street, where we have our headquarters here. We are partnering with young people. We have gotten 122 projects where we have partnered with 14,000 young people in Spain only, and we are thinking about expanding this, on trying to bring all these ideas and to fund ideas and to give mentorship to young people on how to work together. And many of 1,000 of these kids are working now in projects for Telefónica.
Yeah, she's amazing.
There is just, and the only certainty is that we have to be open. The fourth platform is going to be an open platform, so anybody who wants here, who's thinking about any products and needs the data, think about that because we're building that for you. The more open, the better, and what's going to come in the next 10, 20 years is going to come probably from a kid who's out there having coffee and thinking about what's next.
Yeah, for sure. And Kate, also same question. We know you're now addressing millennial ladies mainly, probably older as well, but millennials and younger. What do you see the next, as the next generation who's coming, the little teenagers are now who is going to be your users?
Well, I think just zooming out a little bit into just the connected consumer in general, I think, what we'll see, I think the point about the physical is really interesting. I also think we're just moving from a place where you were going out to find information to a place where information is coming to you, whether you were searching for it or not, where technology is guiding your decisions before you realize that you were even questioning what to do next, where you're being offered services, choices, directions, opportunities, points of purchase, where the kind of technology is able to understand your personal experience. From a media perspective, again, staying kind of zoomed out for a moment, I think that the huge diversity of platforms, pieces of content, just the sheer choice is greater than it's ever been. And that therefore, the thing, as in many ways as old-fashioned as it might sound, that will continue to drive impact and success for businesses, I think, is brand and purpose. I think that, when we look at Refinery's business, our mission to inspire, progress, represent young women will be as relevant today as in 20 years. How we do that might change, but the core of that mission, the optimism, the positivity behind it, the inclusivity behind it, that I think will remain the key to brands, our success, and to others. Those that have purpose, that are able to build community around that purpose. The way you might build that may change, but if you lose the heart, then that's all for nothing.
Well, I don't think I can come up with any better closing word than these. So I want to thank our great panelists, Kate, Mariano. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening.
Cheers. Thank you.